What is up guys, Andy Forest Team Runner here and welcome back to another video, and today we're talking all about the Nike ZOOMX VAPORFLY NEXT % after 100 miles. Yes, welcome back to another video, and today we're talking, as I said in the intro, all about the Nike ZOOMX VAPORFLY NEXT % after 100 miles. Now I bought my pair back in May last year, so they're about 12 months coming, 10 months, coming on to 11 months old now. And obviously this review has been a long time coming, but due to the pandemic, obviously races have been few and far between. So I haven't wanted to put the miles in this shoe where I can because, as a lot of you guys know, I think for me this is my go-to racing shoe these days. But over the weekend we ran a 40k long run which took us up and over the 100 mile mark. I think actually now that takes us to 114 or 119 miles, so we're well past that mark. And today what we're going to be doing is giving you guys an update on the usual stuff that I do with my 100 mile update reviews. The wear and tear, how I've been using it, of course more in particular how I've been using it with this thing during a pandemic and not really racing that much. And then of course will I be using it moving forward, but more specifically to this shoe, has it lost any of its pop? And do I think that the 100 mile kind of region that a lot of people get these shoes to is a myth where they really start to break down? We'll talk all about that today. If you're excited, give the video a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and we'll start with the wear and tear. So what I normally say for shoes in and around the wear and tear section is when you get to 100 miles, you really don't want to be seeing any form of wear and tear. But of course this shoe is a little bit different. Obviously not only is the price ridiculously high, but it's a racing shoe, so you tend to expect with racing shoes maybe a more lighter weight, more nimble package, because obviously on race day you want the lightest and fastest shoe possible, but then sometimes that's a trade-off with durability. You're not going to get the thick foams, the thick rubber soles, and so with this shoe I was maybe expecting to see something a little bit different. Now there's a reason why I've swapped the shoes around just for this segment. I'll show you very shortly. But in terms of wear and tear on the upper, the lacing and all of that stuff, it's absolutely fine. There's no wear and tear on the vapor weave on this shoe. It's a relatively durable material. Not everyone likes it. I can completely understand that. It is a plasticky feeling. To be honest, it fits my foot quite nicely, but as you can see, even so, it does cause a little bit of bunching in the toe box. But in terms of, as I said, the wear and tear on the upper, the lacing and everything like that is absolutely fine. And in terms of the ZOOMX as well, naturally when you buy these shoes, I think if you're the first time for buying ZOOMX shoes, you open the box, you might panic, you might think they've been used. ZOOMX naturally tends to have creases and crinkles in it when you get it. So I remember the first time I bought these I thought, have they been used? And I did a bit of Googling and checking out and asking a few people, and they're like, no, it's very normal for ZOOMX to come with a few crinkles in it. It's just, I guess, the way the foam is. Again, in terms of the foam, I apologise, there is a little bit of mud on these, but the crinkles are there in a bit more abundance, but they're still not horrifically bad, which is great for me personally. I'm very, very happy with that. In terms of the outsole and the structure of the way this shoe is, you have a rubber portion at the top, you have two rubber bits either side here, which are not the same as this, slightly different, and then the rest is exposed ZOOMX. And as you can see, there's starting to become a bit of scuffing there, and that's just down to some of the surfaces that I've run the shoe on. The Shepherd Eye Marathon has done a little bit of damage to this shoe, which is what we ran in October last year, and this is the reason why I swapped it. So when you get shoes with open midsoles at the bottom, you're always in danger of taking chunks out and doing bits and pieces like that. And I don't know if you can see, but just around here, I have a crack here and goes down here. And if I just push that, you will see that I must have stepped on a stone or something to pierce through the bottom of that ZOOMX midsole. Can you see there? So this was done during I should say, the Shepherd Eye Marathon in October last year on some country lanes, lovely and soft, lovely and smooth, but there were some gravelly areas. I must have landed on a stone. I didn't notice it at the time, but when I took the shoes off at the end, it was glaringly obvious. They're a bit dirtier now, but at the time they were a little bit cleaner, and it was like, oh my goodness. I can tell you it hasn't affected performance in any way, shape or form, but it's there and it's just something to be aware of. You have to be wary. I don't know if any of you guys are relatively original subscribers back from a couple of years ago, but a very similar thing happened with my first pair of Rincons. I landed on a spike, on like a thorn that went through the corner up here of the midsole that was exposed, not with this rubber on it. And it came out the top, pierced through the upper and shaved the side of my big toe. And it did cut my big toe, but it literally just shaved the side. I was very lucky it wasn't further in, because that would have gone straight up in to my big toe. And that, as I said, is the danger of having shoes with exposed midsoles. But in terms of general wear and tear, again, a bit of scuffing there, but overall it's holding up pretty well. So how have I been using these shoes and where is their sweet spot? Well, naturally the sweet spot is racing. And how have I been using these shoes? Oh, and long runs as well. They're pretty good at long runs. How have I been using the shoe? Well, how have I got to over 100 miles with barely any racing during a pandemic? Well, to be honest with you, we put a fair chunk in the beginning. I think we got to 30, 40 miles. In the first initial batch of testing last year, speed work, tempo run, and I think we did a big 20-mile long run in these shoes. So that was the first initial chunk, and then they went back into their box, and since then they got used for the Shepherd Eye Marathon last year, and the rest has been made up by time trials. I did a few time trials last year, I've done a few this year. A couple of the ones this year I used the Endorphin Pro, but which one did I use the Next Percent in this one? I can't remember what I used it in this year, but I did. And obviously this weekend with the big 40k long run, I used it for that kind of practicing race kit and that sort of thing, and it's ended up taking us well over the 100-mile mark. Now for me, as I said, the sweet spot is 100% racing. This shoe is geared up for racing. I wouldn't buy this shoe as a training shoe. I love the effect that when you train in other trainers and then you put this thing on race day, it feels amazing. I kind of feel like if I were to train in the Vaporfly, then maybe it would nullify that effect on race day. I don't know, it's just a personal opinion. But that being said, we'll come on to a point very shortly. I'll talk about where I'll probably end up migrating this thing into training when I feel like it's lost that pop. But yeah, overall, that's how I've been using the shoe. Okay, so on to the most important bit. Will I be using this shoe moving forwards, even though it's got the mileage it has in it for racing? And of course, are we busting that myth of the 100-mile mark? A lot of people were saying, as I said, when I bought this shoe, you don't get that long out of the shoe in terms of racing. It really starts to go flat after a while. I can safely say for me anyway, at 114 or 119 miles, whatever it's at, it still feels really, really good. I would still lace this thing up for racing. Would I get a new pair for my Shepherd Eye Marathon? I probably will. That being said, the only reason that that is happening is because I'm probably now going to start to use this thing a little bit more in training. So in terms of will I use it moving forward? Yes, I will. Will I use it for racing? Yes, I will. But I would not like to comment on how much longer I think this new feeling will last. I know loads of people that have their Vaporflies for 200-300 miles and say that they still feel really, really good. I can't comment on that personally, but I can say that at this stage in its lifespan, it still feels really, really good. But as I said, I do kind of have this thing where I would love to get a new pair. And if I'm honest with you, I am trying to get a pair of the Next Percent 2s. I really do want to get those so that I can use those for race day, which would be really, really cool. But if I can't get those, then I wouldn't hesitate to continue using these. And I will kind of continue to use this once its racing life has disappeared. As I just said, I don't like to use these in training because I do feel like it nullifies the effect when you get onto race day. But when it gets to the point where I race in this and it feels like it's compressed too much, or it's lost its pop, or it's lost its magic, shall we say, then I wouldn't hesitate to maybe start using it a little bit more in training, because it is a really solid shoe, very comfortable, and I do feel like it gives you massive benefits in those longer runs, especially in terms of recovery. If you're in a big training block, shoes like this can be a godsend because they just completely keep your legs so much more relaxed, and relaxed is a wrong word. They allow you to recover a lot better because the foam and the plate kind of take away a lot of that beating that the road is giving you. So yes, I will continue to use this shoe moving forward. Yes, it's still very much suitable for racing. I don't think the whole 100-mile thing, 150-mile thing kind of exists. I think it's going to be different for every person depending on height and weight. That's a natural thing to say. But I do think there's going to come a point for me, I'm going to estimate around the 200 to 250 mile mark where I think this thing will start to lose its life. So there we go, those are my thoughts on the Nike ZOOMX VAPORFLY Next Percent, but I know this shoe has been out so much longer than I've had it, and I know so many of you who have taken your Next Percents way above and beyond 100 miles. So I want to know from you, if you own a pair of the Next Percents, at what point did you feel that it lost its edge, its magic, whatever you want to call it, and then did you migrate the shoe into training, and how many miles did you get out of your shoe? I've seen pictures of people using these things up to 300, 400, 500 miles, and to be honest with you, it suddenly makes the cost a lot more justifiable. If you can migrate this thing from a racer into a trainer, then happy days. It's going to be much more bang for your buck. Let me know in the comments below. It'd be great to get that discussion going, and let me know if you agree with my thoughts, or did you find that yours died before the 100-mile mark? Be great to hear. Anyway, also let me know who's going to try and snag a pair of the Next Percent 2s with me. If you enjoyed today's video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I will see you on the next one. Until then.